The Animal Matters Commission was established and is conducted in accordance with Article 12 of the Anne Arundel County Code. These are administrative hearings, and by nature they are informal, which means you are not hampered by the rules of evidence. However, please be aware that you are still testifying under oath. Each party will have their opportunity to state their case. After each party states their case, they will have an opportunity to ask questions of the other party. Please do not interrupt the other party. You will be giving ample time to talk. In many cases, we are aware there is a history. You may briefly tell the commission about the history. However, please focus on the issue at hand. After each case, the commission will have open deliberations. During these deliberations, the public may not participate. If the commissioners have an additional question, you may answer that question. No further information will be heard and a decision will be rendered. This decision is a recommendation to the chief of police or her representative. The recommendation of the commission will be taken into consideration and a final decision will be made by the chief of police or her designated representative. If, as the defendant in this case, you are unhappy with the decision of the commission, you may appeal. For citation cases, appeals are made through the District Court of Maryland. For administrative orders, such as potentially dangerous, and vicious orders, appeals are made through the County Board of Appeals. Please call the first case.
Jen, just a couple of things. So Anne Arundel County Animal Care and Control versus Albert Rogal. He requested that his case be postponed to March. He thought that his case was to be heard at Annapolis District Court, and he needs accommodations because he's not tech savvy. And since there's like sickness going around the shelter right now, I just told him that we would push it to March.
I have no objection to that.
And then the first case will be if you are a participant in Robert Cook versus Diana Israelova, please use the raise hand function so I can promote you to panelist.
Jennifer?
Yes.
On this particular case, I'm going to have to recuse myself because Diana Israelova is actually a client here at the clinic, and I'm concerned about a conflict.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Hemmer.
You're welcome.
We still have, yeah, okay. So we still have a quorum without Dr. Hemmer.
I think he's the same. I think it's might be the same thing.
Just waiting. If you could both unmute and turn your cameras on for me, please. And just bear with me. I am under the weather, so I will do my very best. Okay. Okay, if you could please raise your right hand and keep your hand raised for both parties. Do you declare and affirm under penalties of perjury the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
I do.
And then, Miss Israelova, could you please state your name and address for the record, please?
Sure, it's Diana Israelova. Address is 1617 Elkwood Court in Annapolis.
And then forgive me your husband's name. If you could state your name and address for the record.
Yep, it's Sammy Zachariah. It's 1617 Elkwood Court in Portsmouth.
Perfect. And then Ms. Sabin, I know that we spoke that Mr. Cook would need to be here. Is he available to join since the citations are in his name?
He is not. He is with his mother today, who is sick. She's undergoing chemotherapy for cancer. As for him attending for this one, I don't know that he has to, because the dog is my dog. It's not his dog. He was not walking the dog on the day that this incident occurred, and he was not a witness to what happened that day either. So as far as this particular matter goes, I don't think we need him here.
So Jen, just want to make note that Robert Cook and Miss Sabin are married. They live in the same household. So I don't know if you want to proceed knowing that they are married and the dog lives with both of them.
Well, I guess my question is, how did we establish that Robert Cook was the owner and not Miss Sabin?
So I can answer that. Our first incident occurred back in September of 2024, and it was with Robert Cook. I had the police officers get his name information, phone number, address, all of that for me. So I knew the dog based off of that incident. And the second incident occurred with their daughter, who at the time I didn't know her name or anything about her, and then later found out that that was her daughter. So the second time was the daughter Molly walking the dog where she let go of the leash.
I think that puts us in a bit of a procedural predicament, though, because the defendant listed in the case is Robert Cook. However, he has failed to appear. I do have the complaint in here. I'm inclined to go forward with the case. However, I believe the outcome, any outcome in our decision today will actually go against Mr. Cook and not Ms. Sabin. Ms. Sabin would be allowed to testify as a witness, but the final determination would be adjudicated against, for or against, however it turns out, Mr. Cook. So I'm okay with going forward with that as long as everyone is comfortable with what I just said. Any comment from other commission members? All right, having heard none, then Ms. Israelova, would you like to state your case, please?
Sure. So again, this is the second incident that I had to witness with this dog. This incident occurred on 10/23/24. I left my house at around 11 a.m. to walk my dog Cruz. When I got to Elkwood Court and Old Mill Bottom Road, that corner from across the street, I can see that Molly and Orion were getting walked. So I immediately, instead of taking a right, I immediately took a left so that I can avoid the dog. Again, this is the second incident that had occurred where the dog came out and attacked my dog out of nowhere. As my back was turned, I was walking away. My dog turned around, which caused me to turn around. And we saw Orion, who was now not leashed, cross the street and was in our area. He immediately bounced on my dog, started attacking him, going for the neck. I had the leash across my body at that point because that's the kind of leash that I have. I have a crossbody leash. And I fell to the ground from the impact. And I felt like the best case scenario for me at that point was to remove the leash off of my body.
You okay?
Yeah.
Sorry. So ultimately, what she means by she has a crossbody leash is so like I think there's a picture or two in that one. So that's the leash that we use to walk Cruz. And one of the reasons is because with any larger breed dog, you need, with a shorter leash, you can't have the leverage for a dog to pull you as much. So she uses a crossbody leash, just like the one, not just like the one, that is the exact one in the picture. It also has like a full chest harness on it for, I think it's called an easy walk leash, or just because it tensions around the chest if the dog does pull. But nonetheless, that's the leash that she was walking with. And just to recap, she saw the dog on the right, so she turned left. After a short time, Cruz had turned around because he had noticed that the other dog again was off the leash and ran up to them. The other dog jumped on him.
So yeah, I at that point was 5 months pregnant, which honestly put me into a panic. The last thing I wanted to do was be on the cement concrete floor. The impact was pretty bad. I fell to the ground. Both dogs were extremely close to me, which caused me to remove the leash off of my body so I can roll away from the incident, so that I don't get hurt in the process. In that moment, I remember yelling to Molly, "Please come and get your dog." She was, getting closer, and it took her a while. My shoe fell off, my phone got lost, so I was trying to get myself together and get up. By the time she got there, We were both trying to pull the dogs apart. We were unsuccessful. Their mouths were like interlocked together. And then we had two men from BMW dealership run over and help us get those two dogs off of each other. At that point, I asked her, "Do you have control of your dog before these men leave?" She had her whole body on top of her dog. She wasn't holding him. She said, "Yes, I do." She needed help with getting a ride back home, and I don't know where my phone was. She was trying to contact her dad. So I hid behind a bush with my dog, waiting for her to leave so I can retrieve my phone. So that was the incident on 10/23.
And I think just a quick point to make is that the leash that they use is one of those long retractable leashes. That when something like that for a small dog may be fine, because a small dog isn't going to have the force or the leverage that it takes to like rip out of your hands. But when somebody has a larger breed dog and you have a retractable leash, one of the ones that it lets out like 25 feet or 50 feet before it locks. If a dog it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter if you're Arnold Schwarzenegger. If you're holding a retractable leash and a larger breed dog runs full speed and the leash is not caught, it is going to rip out of your hands. And that's essentially what happened with the other dog, is that they use a retractable leash to walk it, and when the dog ran towards our dog, it ripped out of their hand.
Okay, I have just a couple questions for clarification. Who is Molly?
So that seems to be Jill Savin and Robert Cook's daughter, who was walking the dog at that time on that day. And again, I listed Robert Justin Cook as the person because I have had this incident with him prior on 9/13/2023 when the dog had run out of their house and immediately attacked my dog. So
I thought we weren't supposed to bring up other instances, that this was only going to be the current incident, because I have other witnesses and people that I could have brought if we're discussing the first instance.
Ma'am, as I said in my commission opening, we're aware that there is very often a history in these cases, and we will allow you to briefly discuss that history. We're not going to spend too much time on the first incident, but you are allowed to give a brief description. We will not be taking testimony on that first incident, so it's okay if your witnesses to that are not available. Our decision today will be focused solely on the incident in October.
Okay, thank you.
I do have another question though. Orion, how old is Orion and what kind of dog is Orion?
He is 7 years old and he is a breed called a Eurasier. It's a relatively newer breed.
I've heard Miss Israelova refer to the size of the dog. How large is Orion?
He's 65 pounds.
Thank you. Okay. Did any other commission members have questions at this point? Actually, I do have one other. Miss Israelova, did either you or your dog suffer any injuries from this incident?
aside from falling on the ground and being very sore the next day, my dog was also bleeding from his mouth and paw.
I think an important thing to note, and again, a very quick summary of the first incident without getting deep into it, is that he sustained similar injuries on the first incident, and very shortly put, without going into major details, when he was only like 5 or 6 months old, he was still a puppy. She was going on her normal walk. The dog in question, again, he was behind the glass door in their house. He jumped up, opened the glass door at their house, and ran directly across the parking lot and immediately started attacking our dog Cruz. and that was at
Was there a citation filed? Was there a citation filed on that first case?
So unfortunately, I didn't know I had to call animal control directly, but I did call 911 because again, like Robert came out, grabbed the dog, didn't say a word. I was scratched up and I didn't know if this dog has rabies or whatnot. So two police officers did come knocking on their door to get information from them, but they did not tell me to call animal control. So there's not an official citation with animal control.
but there is
Okay,
a
thank
police
you.
report.
But there is a police report with Annapolis County.
Okay. Any other questions from commission members for Ms. Izerlova? Okay, Ms. Saban, what would you like to tell the commission?
All right. Let me check my book here. We sent in a statement from Molly. She has severe asthma and she also has anxiety. So when she's under stress or anxiety, that triggers her asthma quite badly. So that's why she's not here talking about this today. She would end up having an episode and we wouldn't be able to finish. What she's told me was, because I was not there, so I was not a witness, so this is her words to me, is that she was coming up the road from Old Mill Bottom Road, and the other dog and lady were coming down the road, and when she saw the other dog, we know that they don't like each other and tend to bark and lunge when they see each other. So Molly started trying to pull him behind a sign that was there. It's our neighborhood sign. It says Whispering Woods, has bushes, because she wanted just to get him out of the eyesight in the eye line so she could distract him, and then they could, you know, finish their walks going whichever way. But the dogs saw each other before that could happen, and so we do have a retractable leash. We have several other leashes as well. That's not our only leash. We have short leashes. We have, you know, a 6 foot. We have a 3 foot. That just happened to be the one she was using that day. And she usually locks it at a short length so it can't pull out. I don't know why it pulled out a little further on this day than it usually does, but she said that she saw the other dog get loose first and come across the street towards her. And as the other dog came across the street towards her, then our dog Orion began to pull very hard, and he pulled several times. And on like the third or fourth lunge, he pulled the leash out of her hand. And then the dogs ran and met in the middle of the street. We had a neighbor who's on the corner down there who heard the dogs start to bark when they began fighting, and she came outside, and she said it only took her maybe 2 minutes to put her shoes on and come outside, and by that time Molly was sitting down with the dog, and the other lady had walked away with her dog and was standing over out of sight, trying to stay out of sight of Orion, uh, because she had lost her phone. Molly had lost a shoe also. So Molly and so they were both had lost a shoe, but Molly had forgotten her bag with her phone and her inhaler in it, which was very unfortunate because then she began having a severe asthma attack. So she was not able to get up and walk anywhere. The neighbor who came out of the house called over to the house for me. I didn't answer the phone because I didn't recognize the number. I thought it was spam. But then they called back, and on the third call, when they finally, when I did pick up, then another neighbor had driven in and knows Molly and Orion, saw them sitting there, and that neighbor stopped and picked them up and drove them home to the house.
How old is Molly?
She's 21. So it wasn't the fact, like I looked at the charge, the citation charge, and it says, letting an animal run loose. This wasn't really a case of letting an animal run loose, more as unfortunate event of two dogs that don't like each other, that saw each other, and he just pulled and got himself out of Molly's grasp.
Can I ask, with all due respect, if Molly's anxiety and asthma is so severe that she could not appear here today, why was she walking a 65-pound dog?
Usually she doesn't have any issues with walking the dog. This one particular dog, he doesn't really like. And other than that, for 7 years, we've lived in the neighborhood we've lived in, and we have not had any issues with any other dogs or any other neighbors. And I guess I can add this, so there's also a neighborhood Facebook page that for the community, and I had put a post up on there trying to see if anybody had camera footage, like a doorbell camera that they could provide, just because I wasn't there. I didn't see what happened. I was just trying to see if I could get more information to provide. And when I posted that, the other people created a Facebook page and then started arguing with my husband, calling him names, mocking his weight. And then
I'm not sure, ma'am, I'm not sure any of that is relevant to the issue here today. Unless there was some unless you did find any doorbell camera footage.
No, but this is why Molly also did not want to appear, because then they put up pictures from the husband in the army with lots of guns. And so it was like a Facebook page they created that day. And
Ma'am,
and
yeah,
yeah.
this really is going too far afield from the issue at hand. Anything else relevant to the incident in October?
All right, let me think. That. Other than now, for the incident in October, I think that's it.
Okay.
Oh, no,
Miss-
wait, sorry, let me change that. My dog was injured in this fight. Their dog grabbed onto his face. We submitted the veterinary report and the bills. He had injuries above and below his eye. Luckily, his eyesight was not damaged. It is okay. But also, I find it interesting that she says that she has scratches and bruises, and that her dog had injuries or was bleeding from the mouth. But if she did not, if that was the case, I don't know why she didn't go to the veterinarian to have those things documented, which is what we did with Orion's injuries. Is we took him to the vet for documentation. We took pictures of the injuries and submitted the pictures and the vet information.
Mr. Israelova, I apologize if you said this and I missed it. What is your dog's name?
His name is Cruz.
Cruz, and what type of dog is Cruz?
He's a sheepadoodle, so it's a mix with Old English sheepdog and poodle.
And how large is Cruz?
He's 70 pounds.
Okay. Do any commission members have any questions for either party in this case?
We just want to interject to what Jill was just saying in terms of posting on Facebook. None of that is true. We did have
ma'am, we're not going to get into the Facebook posts.
I don't want to have false information out there. My husband did not post anything with guns. He is a military man, but that is completely unprofessional to do anything like that. So I just want to make that statement.
Understood. But we are only going to deal with any information directly related to the October incident.
Okay.
So if I may, and again, not to bear the point, the only reason why that information may be pertinent is because we do have one screen that is pertinent to like what happened that day, and in that Facebook post, Mr. Robert Justin Cook, he had mentioned that I think the case officer may have a yes.
Yep, right there.
So it says hands-free leash is for looking at your cell phone. Admit it, which people have told me she is doing. Not my saying. She was also getting dragged into the road by your very strong dog, and she released it. But trust her to tell you the exact truth. Yeah, do that. I am sure you already know how that goes. The only reason why I think that is important is because the other side is saying that Diana lost the leash, but in their own words, he's saying that the dog is dragging Diana into the street. If she didn't have control of the leash, then which one was it? Either the leash was attached to her and she was being dragged into the street, or she lost the leash and Cruz ran up to their dog, as they say. It can't be both of them. And in their own words, they're saying that that Cruz was dragging Diane into the street. The reason why she was being dragged into the street is because the leash was still attached to her and it was across her chest.
That leash is quite literally impossible to lose because it's across my body. And we also have an e-collar system that we use with him because he is a large breed dog. So before we even got this dog, it was a really big conversation between my husband and I on how we're going to be responsible for a large breed dog. So not only did he have extensive training, we do have an e-collar, we do have the correct leash on him. I've never lost the leash on my dog. Again, he does not like that dog. So yes, that is correct. He does get riled up when he sees him, but I had full control of my dog until their dog.
Ma'am, can I stop you right there? Because I'd like to ask a question. If you had full control of your dog, how was he able to drag you?
He wasn't dragging me. He was literally by my leg. The other dog, Orion, came over to our space, jumped right on top of him and went straight for his neck. And that's where the dog started fighting. And that's where I fell to the ground and decided the best case scenario for me in that situation, being pregnant, was to remove the leash off of my body and roll away from the dogs fighting. And I wanted to wait for Molly to come over and help me to start getting the dogs away from each other.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, any further comment, question?
Yeah,
Jackie?
if I could just respond to that.
Ma'am, excuse me, one of our commission members, Jackie, had her hand up and was getting ready to say something.
That I'm sorry, I can only see you.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. One for the complainant, and I'm sorry, I'm afraid I wouldn't pronounce your name correctly. Have you had any more problems since the October incident?
With I guess they're talking about.
Are you talking to me, Diana?
Yes.
No, not since the incident. We do have a video that I have sent over to the officer that had occurred, I believe February 2024, where the dog was in my yard. The video shows Robert, who was found on the Ring camera, was caught on the Ring camera trying to get his dog back. But again, just another incident of the dog constantly running loose in our neighborhood. That scared me because I let my dog out in the yard. Obviously, it's our space. So the reason, as to why he was in my yard at 11 p.m. at night without a leash on is another concern that I have for this dog and this family.
Thank you.
Autumn, I just have hang on, Jackie. Autumn, real quick, just for clarification, the running at large citation in this case, though, that is related to October and not the February incident that Ms. Israelova was just discussing, correct?
Yes. The sorry, the evidence that she supplied us with February, along with other, like including this incident, is what led us to issuing a warning letter to Mr. Cook and Miss Saban. But the citations are solely for October 23rd.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Jackie, go ahead.
Thank you. My next two questions are for Ms. Saban. Ms. Saban, my notes indicate that at the time Orion was not licensed. Can you explain why?
I thought that the vet, that was all the things that we did at the vet's office with the rabies certification include the license. I found out that that was incorrect. I did not know that the licensing was a separate procedure and the vet's office didn't make it clear. So he is licensed now.
Thank you. And what plans have you put into place to be sure that this doesn't happen again and that Orion no longer runs at large?
So we have contracted with a trainer, a specialist canine trainer, to help us with this incident. He's not an issue, but when he sees Cruz, there's just something about Cruz he doesn't like. I think perhaps they're both males. Orion is currently not neutered. And so we are going to get some training to help with behavior control around other dogs. We're also getting an e-collar for him and a prong collar. And so he's going to be, he went through training as a puppy. Now that he's an adult male, he's been used for breeding, which is why he's not neutered. The hormones, I think, have caused him to be a little more aggressive towards other male dogs. So we're going to start walking him with an e-collar or the prong collar. We're going to decide with the trainer which is the best way to keep him under control when he sees another dog he doesn't like.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions from commission members? Okay, hearing none, I think I'm going to close the hearing for deliberations.
They are now attendees. You can go ahead.
Okay, Tom, I'll start with you.
I tend to lean towards Diane, the woman that had the dog on the leash on her chest. It seems that the other dog, Orion, seems to 100% have been running at large. There's been no question that the leash was let go and the dog was running at large. The complainant was the only witness to this that we saw today. I think I'd uphold both, honestly. Regardless of I think I just uphold both. I'm just going to stop there.
Okay, Corporal Ott.
I believe Tom really hit on the head. The other witness did not appear and testify today. The dog was running at large. Definitely a safety threat to the woman walking her dog, Cruz, and her unborn child. And thankfully, no one was seriously injured in this incident.
Jackie.
Tend to agree with both. I don't have anything further to add to it.
Okay, Nicole.
Yep, absolutely agree. Uphold both citations. The use of a retractable leash is never a good idea. So I think that maybe tend to also not agree with the prong collar in the future, but that's their decision. That's all I have.
I pretty much agree with everything I've heard. I think it's unfortunate that the only witness to this incident didn't appear today. While I sympathize with the anxiety and asthma, unfortunately, everything we have to go on the defendant's side of the case was hearsay, and it was a lot of hearsay. So I'm uncomfortable using any of it. So I'm I will take a motion.
I'll move to uphold both citations for running at large and for the public safety threat.
I'll second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Oh, it's unanimous. Okay. Thank you.
Sorry. If you
Oh,
are
no, you're fine. Take your turn.
if you are a participant in Anne Arundel County Animal Care Control versus Ernest Boney, please use the raise hand function so I can promote you to panelist. I believe I have everyone. So for this case, Jen, we have Officer Herbert and Yolanda for Miss Yolanda for Animal Care and Control, and then Mr. Boney is the defendant. If everyone could please turn on their cameras and unmute themselves so I can swear you in. Mr. Boney, if you could please unmute yourself and start your video, please. Perfect. And then unmute. All right, if everyone could please, who's a party, please raise your right hand and keep them raised. Do you declare and affirm under penalties of perjury the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
I do.
Mr. Boney, did you understand that?
Yes.
Officer Herbert, if you could state your name and address for the record.
Officer Herbert, 411 Maxwell Fry Road, Millersville, Maryland, 21108, Anne Arundel County.
Miss Yolanda, if you could please state your name and address for the record.
Yolanda Watson, 8202 Barrington Court, Severn, Maryland, 21144.
And Mr. Boney, if you could state your name and address for the record.
Ernest Boney, 1110 Reese Road, Severn, 21144.
And Miss Yolanda, is Sean Reed somebody who is a witness as well?
Yes, and also there's other people that's on the call as well.
Yeah.
So Sean and it should be Cassandra.
Okay, just give me 1 second. Jen, I will let you use the discretion of who to
And Brian.
to call
Sorry.
on. These are all witnesses to the most recent event that led to the decision from Animal Care and Control. If you, Brian, Miss Cassandra, and Sean, you could unmute yourselves, raise your hands, your right hand for me. And then, do you declare and affirm under penalties of perjury the testimony you are about to...
Autumn, before you
Sorry.
continue, we can't see Cassandra.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Could you please start your camera, Miss Cassandra?
I'm worried. It says that it's on.
I just asked you to start the video. If you could just hit OK, see if that helps. Perfect. Got you. All right.
Thank you.
Am I there?
Yes. Can you please raise your right hands? Do you declare and affirm under penalties of perjury the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
All right, Mr. Reed, if you could please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Sean Reed. I live at 8221 Barrington Court in Severn, Maryland.
Mr. Brian M., your name and address.
Brian Mitchell. I live at 1719 Barnett Court in Severn, Maryland.
And Miss Cassandra, if you could state your name and address for the record.
Cassandra Marshburn, 1725 Barnett Court, Severn, 21144.
All right, Jen, I will turn it over to you.
Okay, so let's start with Officer Herbert.
Good morning, everyone. So this is Mr. Boney is appealing the reckless owner letter that was served to him on December 20th. So the backstory here is Bear, who is a 12-year-old German Shepherd, has a potentially dangerous order that was issued in July of 2017. So on December 17th of 2024, Bear, a 12-year-old tan, black, neutered German Shepherd, while running at large without a muzzle, was involved in a severe animal attack that killed a 1-year-old Chihuahua. We impounded Bear for the order violation as well. Well, let me back up. So we did the order violation, impounded him. I went out to re-inspect his property to make sure he was in compliance, which he was. And that same day, I issued him the reckless ownership because from February 28th, 2024, we've had multiple complaints about Bear running loose with no muzzle. So when this fatality occurred with the Chihuahua, that we deemed him a reckless owner. Bear is currently in the care and custody of Animal Care and Control, as well as Sam, another Chihuahua owned by Mr. Boney that lives at his residence. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, who are you? I'll get to you in just a second, Mr. Boney. Dr. Hemmer, you had a question?
Yeah, I do. I'm just trying to understand the timeline here a little bit better. So it's my understanding that he was issued a dangerous order in 2017, correct?
Potentially,
a PDO on 17, and
for
then
biting, for biting 2 people.
Right, and we've had no incidences with Bear up until December 2024, correct?
Let's see.
That he was issued any orders or citation on.
Correct.
Okay. That's what I need to know. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, anything else, Officer Herbert?
No, ma'am.
Okay, Mr. Boney, what would you like to tell us?
Yes. Bear, is not a dangerous dog. How the previous incident came about was the people was in his space in my yard, and so the purpose of having Bear is to protect his territory. So the previous incident, I had one of the guys walking him, and he got off in his leash, and of course, dogs is always come to the point that they like to stretch their legs, especially Bear. So that's basically what I have to say about that. So Bear's not have ever been a dangerous dog because he's not a vicious dog. So anybody can play with Bear. Everybody loves Bear.
Okay, Mr. Boney, under the potentially dangerous order, your dog should be restrained at all times when it's outside. How was your dog able to attack this 1-year-old Chihuahua?
Because he was out there by his kennel, and he was on his change. I let him. I got a cable change for him, and the dog wanted over here in the yard, and I guess the dog took it that Bear was going to play with him, and the Chihuahua kind of like introduced the fight between the Bear and the Chihuahua. So that's basically what happened. And then my one of my tenants back in the back witnessed the whole thing. She's not here to testify today, but the dog, the Chihuahua, came over to the yard, and even the owner realized that. And and I sympathize with the owner, and I made contact with him that if whatever I could help him out, purchase a new dog, then I would do that.
Jennifer, I have a question for Officer Herbert.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Tom.
I guess either could answer, but I'm just trying to figure out. So with the potentially dangerous order, Mr. Boney just mentioned a kennel. Is the kennel the only space for the dog in the backyard? Is there a privacy fence, a 6-foot fence? And also, can you comment? There's nothing in the order that would allow the dog to be on a run of any sort, I would assume.
The kennel is in existence, and no, there's no tethering. It's from the house to the kennel with leash and muzzle.
Thank you.
Okay, we have several other witnesses here today. Mr. Boney, can you give me some idea what these witnesses are here to testify about?
I had the slightest idea.
Jen, those they're here on behalf of Anne Arundel County Animal Care and Control.
Oh, okay. I apologize. I misunderstood. I thought they were witnesses for the defendant. So,
Actually, Jen, real quick, before we jump into witnesses, can I ask Mr. Boney one quick question just to clarify something?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Boney, again, I just want to clarify, kind of following up on my question with Officer Herbert. I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. You said that, that the dog, well, two different things that you said, I think. You said that this incident occurred, the dog, well, either way, the dog was not muzzled when this incident occurred, correct?
Yeah, he won't wear a muzzle. He'll have a fit. He'll work on it. He'll take his feet. He won't go nowhere. He'll unmuzzle himself.
So during this incident, he was not muzzled. And generally speaking, you're saying he's not muzzled when you take him to put him in the kennel outside.
No, he's not muzzled. My property is 2 acres big, and so never had a problem with muzzling my dogs.
Okay, thank you. I just want to be clear. Thank you.
I'd like to make a comment, Jen.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Nicole.
So the statement that Bear does not take a muzzle, do not do well with muzzle is absolutely incorrect. Bear is walked at Animal Care and Control on a muzzle with no problem whatsoever.
Well, if he's there without a muzzle because he feels as though he's in prison, but when he's at home, he's not in prison. So the thing is this: even way to see a hearing go, if he's not allowed to come back to his primary home, then whoever adopted him, I would very much appreciate if they would take care of him and give him proper training and let him feel free. Because I don't feel as though that a dog should be not at that size, at my property size. I'm a North Carolinian and never had to go through this type of thing. And I've owned a dog for 50 years.
Thank you, Mr. Boney. Dr. Hemmer, you had a question?
Yeah, I have a question for Officer Herbert. So it's my understanding that we had an issue with Bear in 2017. Then for the last 5 years, we've had no problems with Bear. I guess 7 years, maybe 7 years now, no problems with Bear. Then we had this horrible incident where there was a fatality. Why? Can you walk me through the thinking on animal control's end of why this dog was given a reckless owner designation and he wasn't bumped up from a PDO to a DO?
That'd be a question for Autumn.
Okay. Autumn, can you give me some clarification on that?
Bear with me.
Okay.
So since there was a significant time lapse in between the first incident and the second incident, and basically granted that Bear was not within compliance with the PDO on his property, and it was essentially a provoked attack, we issued him a reckless warning letter, and we reinforced all of the elements of the PDO to make sure that he was in compliance. Officer Herbert told him on site what would happen next. Should he fail to comply with the PDO, which is why within a week, which is why these witnesses are here, he ended up getting the actual reckless owner letter because he was found to be running at large without a muzzle, without a harness, off leash, and without an owner at the time.
So he was
Both
given none. He was given none of those citations, just the reckless owner, based on those comments. Correct?
and the video footage that was
Okay.
provided to us as well.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Okay. And then Jennifer, I have a question that I don't know if you can help me with because you're legal, or we have to go to the Office of Law. So is his PDO grandfathered in? Because we've had no incidents with this dog in the preceding 24 months. So, but he does have a PDO. So is that grandfathered in? This is more of a technical issue in terms of this case when you read the law. I'm just having a tough time clarifying that in my mind. So if you can help me, if we can get someone from the Office of Law, or maybe bump this to our discussion, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I would probably ask for clarification from the Office of Law. I don't know that I'm qualified to give that distinction, and I would do that during deliberations.
Very good. Thank you, Jennifer.
If I may, the reckless owner, it's anything that happened after the May date. Forgive me for not knowing the exact date, but May of 2024, anything from that point after could be used towards reckless owner. Which I guess my basic understanding is anything after that date that's new that occurs and there was still a 2-year history, we could use it towards reckless owner. I don't think it's grandfathered in. But I can promote Curran or Sandy Lammy, whichever one, from the Office of Law to clarify.
Yeah,
We would do
I'm
that
sorry.
during deliberations.
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry. Go ahead, Dr. Hemmer.
Thank you. I'm good.
We do have several other witnesses here, and I don't want to waste their time. So I guess we will hear from them in turn just to see what information that they can provide for the case. I'm just going to go across my screen in the order that I see you. So I'm going to start with Yolanda.
Okay, hello everyone. How are you? So I witnessed on December 26th, approximately around 9:43, I observed 2 dogs, a German Shepherd, black and tan, and a Chihuahua, which was brown, roaming freely through Ashbury Woods community, without a leash or any supervision. There was another neighbor in the community that was walking a dog. At the time, she has a Yorkie. I don't know if it's a mixed breed or not, but it's like relatively like, I want to say 5 pounds. And that dog is also brown and black as well. So the German Shepherd, who was unleashed, which is known as Bear, approached the homeowner, Julie, and her Yorkie, causing Julie to visibly become distressed and yelling at the dog, trying to get away from the dog. Bear was still approaching. I'm sorry, if I say Bear, I'm referring to the German Shepherd, just FYI. Bear was approaching Julie and the Yorkie, and you can hear her on the camera screaming through people's yards, like, get away, get away. And so at that time, it was brought to my attention that Bear was supposed to be he was supposed to have a muzzle on or some type of leash due to the infraction that he had already endured as far as with the incident that occurred with I think, Chihuahua. Correct me if I'm wrong. The incident where the dog was killed. So after that, I notified animal control because this is an ongoing issue with Bear, who constantly gets out of his owner's yard, and the 2 dogs always roam freely. And we have younger kids we have like a 2-year-old, and maybe a 6-year-old and older kids that's on that side where Bear always roam in. And the cul-de-sacs where he comes in, there are small kids who's outside playing. And so when Bear comes around, he does tend to chase the kids. So it's very disheartening how the owner is saying that he is a friendly dog. He doesn't bother no one, because that's not the case. Um, the the incident that happened on December 26th, Bear was walking across the street, approaching the owner. The owner started yelling and trying to get her dog for safety. When I pulled up to Julie. I'm sorry. I pulled up to Julie and asked her, did she want to get in my car so I can take her home? She said no. So after that, Bear somehow just, walked away. Him and a Chihuahua dog just got away from the dog. And she was hiding behind my neighbor fence. And so that's all I have to that incident.
Thank you, ma'am.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to move on to Sean Reed, I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. I've been a resident here since 2021. I have 3 of the small children that Yolanda are talking about. When we moved in, my son was 8, my oldest daughter was 6, and my youngest daughter was 3. They're now 13, 10, and 7. So, well, sorry, my youngest daughter has a birthday coming up. My children have been chased into the house by Bear. They're outside. If they're playing with their friends, Bear comes out loose, unmuzzled, unleashed, and my children come in, and it's always, the same report: Bear's out. So they know that they can't you can't trust Bear when he's around. They're afraid of him. They have been, my children do send themselves back into the house when Bear gets out, and it happens often enough that my children are reluctant to go outside because Bear gets free.
When you say it happens often, sir, can you give me some time frame? Like, when was the most recent incident?
The most recent incident that they came inside was September. And that's just because the only reason there hasn't been
24
of 24, yes, ma'am. The only reason it hadn't been more recent is it got cold. So my children naturally don't go outside too much after it gets cold. But over the summer months, it's at least once every 2 weeks. My kids come inside, Bear's out. So they come back inside.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Cassandra?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I've been here for 20 years, and I know Bear isn't 20 years old, but there was another Bear before him, I believe, so there's always going to be another dog if this one gets adopted out. And I'm home all day long, so I just look out my window typically, and I see, I'd probably say it's more than what Sean sees, but I probably see Bear like maybe at least once a week, unleashed, unmuzzled, unattended. I've seen him run towards Amazon drivers where they're afraid to drop off a package, or the mail person. She came to deliver mail one day, probably in the late fall, and I came right outside. I said, "Don't get out of your truck because Bear's out." She's just like, "Okay." So he eventually goes away, and she was terrified, and I'm just like, I made her stay in her truck, wait till he goes home, and then you can do your business. But people are, delivery people, they're aware, and they're like reluctant, and it's sad, and but yeah, it's a weekly thing, and here's the thing, and there is no 6-foot privacy fence. There's none of that. So it's just his however many acreage that he says he has, and then our community. Well, it's his responsibility to make sure that that dog is contained at all times. Our street backs right up to his yard, and I don't have a problem if that dog stays in his yard. The problem is when he steps onto our Asbury Woods private community and starts threatening people. And that's my testimony.
Thank you, ma'am. And I believe we have one last witness. That would be Brian M.
Yep. So I haven't
Sir, if you could,
had.
sir, before
Sorry.
you begin, could you please turn on your camera? There you go. Thank you.
I haven't had as many interactions as the other witnesses, but mostly just because I work fairly late. But I've lived in the community since about 2021, and I will say that I've seen him wandering around about 10 times personally since then. Typically, he's just wandering around the apartments. But the latest incident that I was sort of involved with was I was taking out the trash, and he was wandering around the trash, and at that time he did sort of try to chase me off. So I sort of just jogged around back to my apartment or townhouse, and then and that was when Cassie Cassandra on the calls there.
And
Noticed
when was
that.
that
And
incident, sir?
this would have probably been maybe September, October of 2024. Yeah, it was sometime fall of 2024. And when Cassie saw me sort of running by, then she walked me over and just showed me how to sort of tell him to get back in the yard and everything. He was pretty responsive to just verbal commands, but it was dark and I was a little surprised at that incident.
I'm the
Understood.
Cassie
Thank
he's
you, sir.
referring to, Cassandra.
Yes. Mhm.
I understood that. Mr. Boney, is there anything you would like to say in response to the testimony you just heard?
Yes, ma'am. I didn't realize that all these witnesses disliked my dog as that much. If they could have just only came and brought it to my attention, there would have not been no problem. Bear's not a vicious dog. You're scared of Bear because Bear is Bear, and that he's a shepherd, and a dog like to stretch their legs. The dog will not attack you as long as you don't attack him. The dog is
Sir,
not.
Mr. Boney, do you dispute any of the incidents that they describe?
Yes, ma'am. I dispute them all. The incident that the lady said that the young lady said that the bear chased her a little old chihuahua or something or whatnot. The only thing Bear would do would play with a dog. If he liked to play, he's just like you or I. If you and I are shut off from our other mates, humans. Once we see one, we wants to play with them. We wants to interact with them, and so a dog is somewhat like a human. And so when Bear gets a chance, he likes to stretch his legs. He likes to run. I used to take him to a run spot.
I understand, Mr. Boney. Mr. Boney, do you dispute that your dog was at large?
No, I don't dispute it.
Okay, thank you.
I won't dispute that. No.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from commission members? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jackie.
Thank you. For Mr. Boney, you know that you have had the PDO order and that your dog Bear is supposed to be in the kennel when outside. So why do you let him run at large?
Well, I don't let him run. Really, I do not let him run at large. I'm not the only overseer Bear. I have other people to oversee him. I'm out of town here and there on other occasions, so I promise they go feed him, and eventually he get out the kennel for some odd reason or another, and that's basically when he's probably running at large, as they stated. But I mean,
Sir,
go ahead.
Sir, since you have other people helping you to take care of Bear, have you impressed on them how important it is for Bear to always be in compliance with the PDO?
Yes, and I think right now, in fact, if Bill can get out of this one, he's gonna change. He'll change. He'll change his territory. He'll be in North Carolina from here on out. I'll take him down where he can run over a farm.
Officer Herbert, I saw you had your hand raised.
Yes, I just wanted to interject that when Mr. Booney redeemed Bear the first time after the Chihuahua incident and he was served the reckless warning letter, I also gave him a copy of the potentially dangerous order and went over it. We also, Animal Care and Control, provided a muzzle for Bear. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Okay, thank you, Officer Herbert. Any other questions from commission members? Okay, I'm going to close the hearing for deliberations.
Jennifer, Christina has her hand up.
Christina?
I see a hand, Christina's iPhone.
It's somebody in the attendees. It was another witness, but because we already started, just to move forward with the case.
Sorry.
So there was another witness in this case?
For the Animal Care and Control, but they joined in late. I can have her join if you want, but
let me ask the commission, do you feel like you need to hear any further testimony in this matter?
So I think we should, if there's somebody else has something to add, we should hear it.
I don't feel I
Okay,
need to hear anything else. The witnesses have all been echoing the same issues.
This is a witness for animal control, correct?
yes.
Okay, I'm inclined to agree with Nicole then. If it had been an additional witness for Mr. Boney, I would allow that person to testify, but I think at this point, any additional testimony on behalf of animal control would be repetitive. So I'm going to go ahead and close the hearing for deliberations. Dr. Hemmer, I'll start with you.
So I guess kind of where was hanging me up is the timeline of all this. That's why I wanted to get Office of Law involved for some clarification on that, because to me it does not sound like animal control met the standard for a reckless animal owner. He's not he has the designation, but that doesn't get grandfathered in. It's my understanding. And so really we've had 7 years with no problem with this dog. Then we had a horrible incident with a fatality. Why wasn't, I understand what Autumn said, and I appreciate her position, but I don't think that animal control satisfied the letter of the law for a reckless owner, in my opinion. But with that said, for this particular matter with the reckless owner, I'm not sure where my thoughts are going to end up, but I don't think as a commission we should lose sight of the bigger global picture, that while we've not had any documented incidents or legal action taken against Mr. Boney in this situation, based on the witness testimony from the community, bears a terror. Bears creating a problem in the community, even though it's not documented legally. So I think I would proffer that the commission needs to look more at the global picture with the community and Bear's presence in it, as well as looking at this particular reckless animal designation. And like I said, that's where I'm a little lost on the timeline here. That's why I'm having a tough time saying, yeah, he's a reckless pet owner. But I appreciate and I understand, and I think we should take into account the testimony we heard on behalf of animal control that bear is a problem in the community, and we need to do what we can to protect the community. So those are my thoughts.
Okay, to address Dr. Hemmer's concerns, I see we have Sandy, I don't want to mispronounce the last name, Lammy. Is this from the Office of Law?
Yes, she's from Office of Law, Sandy Lammy.
Sandy Lammy. Ms. Lammy, would you like to respond to Dr. Hemmer?
I think the Office of Law might be having some connectivity issues because Curran was having trouble staying on the call as well. Let me see if I can email her to see what's going on.
You can move on, Jennifer, till we get the Office of Law thing squared away, because that's really the only issue I have is the timeline here and meeting the definition of the law for a reckless owner.
Okay. Nicole?
I think he's the definition of a reckless owner, and he was given a warning letter. It's unfortunate, the situation, but this community in the area of his home is being held scared, and it because of a dog that continually gets out at large, not in compliance with the muzzle, and I don't have any other words. It's reckless owner.
Corporal Ott?
I agree with Nicole, though I am interested to hear from the Office of the Law.
Jackie?
With
Jackie,
the
we can't
others,
hear you. Okay, go ahead. Now I can hear you.
I agree with the others that Mr. Boney obviously doesn't appreciate the nature of bear in the community and the problems that he's causing, or that how important it is that he keep bear under control. But we do need to get Dr. Hemmer's question answered by law. But we're going to need to do something to keep bear under control.
Tom?
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with everybody. I mean, if it doesn't bear out that the reckless owner is something that we can do, I do think we need to come up with something or something we can do within the law to rectify this. It seems like an ongoing situation, and again, Mr. Boney does not seem either aware or willing to follow the order that he's already under. Constructing a large fence might help the situation, something like that. But I mean, short of that, I don't see how, unless we do something else within the law, I don't know how we could handle it. So I'm kind of with everybody.
Well, procedurally, we can only address the citation in front of us, and that is the reckless owner. So if we get an opinion from the Office of Law that that the timeline does not work and we can't, the case can't be made under that current citation, we would have no choice but to dismiss it. But we don't have the authority to sua sponte add an additional citation. So I would, I see that Ms. Lammy is back online. I would love to hear from the Office of Law.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you very low.
Okay, yeah, my apologies. I guess when I joined from within my other session, the audio doesn't work. So just like Autumn said, the reckless animal owner designation law is pretty new, but according to the code, it says any person who is found guilty of violating the provisions of this article 3 or more times from separate incidents within a 24-month period may be designated by the chief as a reckless animal owner. So there has to be 3 incidents or more within a 24-month period. I don't believe, just like Dr. Evans said, I don't believe the 2017, was gonna say, incident will count. It does say that, for the purposes of this section, a person is considered to be found guilty of violating the provisions of this article if, the person owns an animal designated by the agency as potentially dangerous. But again, they would have to be designated by the agency as potentially dangerous within the preceding 24 months. So the 2017 PDO would not qualify because it's outside the 24-month period.
Miss Lammy,
Yes.
the question I have, what sparked the question is the preceding 24 months. But what I need clarification on is, violating the provisions. If animal control gets called out and just says, hey, you're in violation, does that count as a violation, or does there have to be some documentation like a citation or another order issued? What's the standard for violation, I guess is what I'm asking. That's what has me, in addition to the timeline, that's what has me a little confused here, for lack of a better way to describe it.
And if I may add to that, just to branch off of you, Hammer, from our understanding, because Bear, after he was involved with the attack with the Chihuahua, he was in violation of 4 different portions of the PDO, which from our understanding was, 3 or more different violations. So he was in violation of not wearing the harness, not in violation of not wearing the muzzle, and like that's how we saw it. So if we're wrong, again, I just like clarification.
It's not a matter of wrong, and I understand that Autumn. Where's the documentation? Where's the notice? What do I need in the way of documentation to indicate a violation? Did you see what I'm saying? Am I being clear? Can
Before you
someone
get
help
to
me
the
understand?
before you get to the documentation, though, the statute says 3 or more times from separate incidences. So multiple violations arising from the Chihuahua incident wouldn't be sufficient.
Good point. Good point. So I don't think that, based on the timeline and the definition in the law, I don't think reckless applies here. That's not to say we don't have a problem. That's not to say animal control should do something else, like issue a dangerous order for this dog in this situation based on the fatality. But as far as the reckless order goes here, I don't think we can hold that up, because I don't believe animal care and control has met the standard of the law here. I think they need to give this dog a DO.
Yeah, I can add it to that. It says, for the purpose of this section, a person is considered to be found guilty of violating the provisions of this article, meaning just any animal control article. If the person is found guilty, that's one. If they're placed on probation before judgment, or if they pay a civil fine for a violation of this article. But I'm guessing that would have to happen at least 3 times, or if they own a animal designated by as a potentially dangerous, or vicious within the preceding 24 months. So you'd have to have, just like Dr. Miss, 3 guilty findings, like you said, 3 different violations, or a PBJ outcome, or they just paid the fine. But you'd have to have 3 violations that either they got found guilty, or they got probation before judgment, or they paid the fine. But you'd have to have 3 different you have to have 3 different violations where one of those outcomes happen: guilty, finding, PBJ, or they paid the fine. Yeah.
Yeah, which we don't have here, is my understanding.
Jackie?
It seems like with this discussion, my personal feeling is that Mr. Boney meets the concept of reckless owner, but not legally, because we don't have the citations or the documentation of Bear being at large. We have witnesses that have said they've seen him, but we have no documentation from animal control to verify that.
That's correct. And those incidences would have to be adjudicated incidents. The testimony alone wouldn't be sufficient.
Right, right. So what, obviously, it seems like we cannot uphold the reckless. But I'm wondering, where does animal control go from here to try to be sure that bear does not continue to be an issue for the community?
Well, we've had a fatality. Yeah, this is this has to get kicked back down to animal control would be my understanding. It's for them to recharge on this incident.
I'm not sure that the fatality alone is sufficient, because I did hear Autumn say that they determined that to be a provoked attack because the Chihuahua did come into the other dog's yard. So in any case, it's not necessarily our purview to advise, you know, or to give direction to animal control. So for just purposes of today, we need to take a vote on the reckless owner. And I guess I'll make a motion that under the statute, the requirements are not met and that the citation reluctantly be dismissed.
Yeah, I guess I'll second. I mean, there's nothing really we can do in the situation.
Thanks, Tom. All those in favor? Thank you. Okay, Autumn, we have one last case, or
that person is not in the waiting room, so they did not show. I will make note that Mr. Smolin has still yet to license his pet, which is the citation he received. He was appealing the citation for failure to license his animal.
Okay, then we note for the record that the defendant has failed to, or the respondent has failed to appear, and I would make a motion that the citation ending in 0552 be upheld.
I second the motion.
All in favor? Okay. And then do we have minutes?
Yeah, if we could please vote on them, except for Corporal Ott, you were not there. So if we could just take a vote on the meeting minutes from December.
I make a motion that we accept the meeting minutes for Animal Care and Control Commission, Animal Matters Commission for December 2024.
I'll second. All those in favor? One abstention, motion passes.
And then I know before January got canceled, there was mention that there were some changes that, you know, may or may not want to be discussed with our administrator. She is on. I can promote her if you guys wish to discuss, if there's any questions you may have.
These are questions regarding the status of animal control, right? The new.
Yes.
Okay. Absolutely. Go ahead and promote her.
She is joined.
Morning.
Good morning.
So as far as the status of animal care control becoming a standalone department, there is no update right now. We think there's support for it on council, but the legislation will have to be written, and it's sort of going along the same track of our current budget process. What was started as the animal care and control budget as part of the police department is starting to progress as take a fresh look, what it would need to be as a standalone department. So there's really no update at this point. I think it'll be another few months until there's an update, which would be that legislation has been written, and maybe a timeline as to when county council would hear that bill and vote on it.
Have you seen any draft legislation come through? Anything for your review?
Not yet, not yet. And I'm sure I will be part of the review process, so
I would hope.
I will be.
Okay, did anyone have any questions about the proposal? I mean, we all received it, and reviewed it. We've discussed it once before. Any, other than the update that, Ms. Roll just gave? Okay, well, I appreciate it. It was brief, but, we do look
I wish
forward
I
to.
had more. It'll come though. The target is that if this can happen, it happens effective July 1st.
Oh, good.
Okay, then we would definitely want to see legislation pretty soon here, because I would assume it's not going to get through on the first pass, and there would be, at least a couple amendments probably in order to just tweak some of the wording.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else for today, Autumn?
That will be it for the day. Thankfully.
Go to bed, Autumn.
Yeah, so you can go back to bed. Thank you so much for sticking it out today. We appreciate it. We know you don't feel
Thanks,
well.
Claudia.
Yeah, thanks, Autumn.
Thank
And
you.
with that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
I make
I
a
make a
motion that we
motion.
adjourn. I second Nicole.
Oh, I'm sorry, Nicole, I didn't hear you. I apologize. All right, all those in favor? See you all next month.
Have a
Thank you
good
very
month.
much.
Thank you, Autumn.